You know, my dad and granddad gave me probably the most precious gift of all that has lasted a lifetime. They taught me how to fish. And I can still hear both of them saying, you know, I'd rather catch one bass on top than five on the bottom. Well, you know, that might be exaggerated a little bit, but it's pretty close to what most bass fishermen I know would say. No lure produces more excitement. Why? Because you not only see the strike, you hear it too. Rare indeed is the fisherman who doesn't thrill to a sudden strike of a bass exploding into a lure on top of the water. You know, I think most of us will have to admit we'd rather catch a bass on top than any other way. There are 5 keys to topwater fishing success that are important to remember. The first concerns water temperature and water clarity. Slightly stained to clear water is best when the surface temp is above 65 degrees. Second, you should fish your lure as close as possible to an object or irregular feature. This can either be visible or submerged. Third, whenever possible, cast toward the sun. Fourth, establish a rhythm. It's the rhythm of the lure that attracts bass. And fifth, don't set the hook until you feel the weight of the fish. And that's one of the hardest doggone things in the world for me to do. Whoa. Tiny torpedo. Yeah. That's a pretty one. By fishing a topwater plug near objects, the shoreline, or irregular features, you'll increase your chances for a strike, simply because the bass use one of these features as a blocking force. Predator fish like to trap their prey against something such as a log, stump, weed bed, the bank itself, or whatever, even the bottom. Now, by casting into the sun, your lure will produce a better silhouette on the surface, plus it will appear slightly larger than it actually is. Now, this helps hide the fact that it's an artificial offer instead of the real thing. But when you take a good look at the lure that I'm using today, the tiny torpedo, you can see how it looks pretty much like the real thing. Its shape, its look, and action does come awful close to a wounded shad or minnow kind of scooting across the top of the water. That little spinner on the back just makes a little noise that creates an inviting sound. There's just no telling how many fish are caught on this little fella. And I think every tackle box bass fisherman in America has got one of them in it, either the little tiny torpedo or the larger size. But this little hidden bait has caught many, many bass. That's a good one. Always go back under the boat. Get out from it. He just came up there. Pew. He wanted that, didn't he? When a fish hits a topwater bait, it's critical to wait that extra second or two until you feel the fish. This is one of the hardest things to learn about this type of fishing. You have to give the bass time enough to get the plug in his mouth so you can get good hook penetration when you do set the hook. You've got to understand he's taking in air, water, and your plug all at the same time. And like I said a minute ago, that's one of the hardest things in the world for me to do, and for most people. You just get excited when you see that strike and you just want to set the hook. But just pause just for a second or two and you'll definitely improve your strike catch ratio. Let's discuss another one of those 5 keys to successful topwater fishing: the rhythm. How you determine or how you retrieve the lure really determines the rhythm. Rhythm is determined by the length of the jerks or pulls and the length of the pause between them. That's important. Perhaps my most productive rhythm or presentation is a twitch, 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 pause, twitch, allowing the lure to sit for approximately a second or so in the pause position and repeat again. Now, it's important to remember to experiment with different retrieves. I do better working this bait with my rod tip low to the water. I know there's got to be somebody around there. It was. Followed it out. Aha. I'm proud of myself and keeping up with my pliers. See ya. To obtain the best action with this little guy, what you want to do is use a medium light rod with a moderate flex soft tip. This type rod action, what it does, it allows for better casting control and it permits you to work the lure with less effort. To entice strikes on a bait of this type, it should look, sound, and appear vulnerable, as well as edible. The action should suggest that it's in trouble. An injured, unaware forage fish will unknowingly convince a bass to bust it. As silly as this might sound, most of the fish we're catching today are being caught off structure. Now, when most anglers hear the word structure, they think of a submerged creek channel, a ridge, a bar, a drop-off way out in the lake. But let me tell you, there's plenty of shallow structure in close to the shoreline. Now, to define the word structure, for those not familiar with the term, consider structure to be the floor of the lake extending from the shallows out to deeper water. More precisely, it's the unusual or irregular features on the lake bottom that make the difference from the surrounding bottom areas. As a general rule, for any type of structure to be productive, it needs to have immediate access to deeper water. Now, this rule applies regardless of whether that structure is a foot deep or 35 feet deep. Bass consider a quick passage to deeper water as an escape route from predators or any type of danger. Consider it instinct or habit. Bass normally won't wander very far from that escape route. Like a submarine, bass want the option of crash diving when they feel the need. Also, this change of depth affords the bass the opportunity to change light penetration and gives them more latitude in choosing a temperature range they prefer. These are the kind of banks they like, where we've got real deep water close by. That 15-foot water is real close to that 3 and 4 foot water. Call him out from under that stuff. There he is. Oh goodness, that's a good one. I saw him. And here we go, here we go, here we go. I saw him coming out from under it. He just wants to go to the bottom. That's what you want to do? Is that what you want to do? Pretty thing, you. I saw you come out from over there and get it, old boy. Yeah, I did. I saw you. Sweet thing, you. You know, the two most important considerations regarding structure are depth, the basic structural feature or type of spot, and the ambush point in the area. Now, let me show you by this illustration the type of shoreline that we're fishing today. As I said earlier, we're concentrating on structure along the shoreline. Any place where there's a noticeable depth change, like a point where the contour lines form a depth change, at the mouth of a ditch, creek, or depression where the deepest water occurs, a shallow rise in close to the shore, a deeper bank, or possibly a deep pocket that's not necessarily visible, or where a cove has deeper water in the back end of it, deeper than other coves along the shoreline. Naturally, the farther these locations are separated, the more productive they'll be. And if cover is present, whether visible or not, they'll even be more attractive. Yeah, I like grass. Woo! What a day. What a morning. Like I said in the beginning of our show, I'm fairly sure I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it were not for my granddaddy and dad taking the time to introduce me to this wonderful sport. The legacy they left me of knowledge and love for fishing really was the most precious gift of all. And for me, it's been a gift that will surely last a lifetime. Why don't you think about giving the same gift to some youngster real soon? I'll tell you what, you'll be mighty proud of yourself if you do. Until next time, tell you what, catch one from me, okay? We'll see you.